Music. Why thousands of people receiving an emergency alert on their phones just a short time ago. The warning heading quote ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. About 10 minutes after the alert was sent out, Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard confirmed the warning was fake. Hawaii emergency officials say the alert was a mistake, but it's unclear how or why it was sent. Hawaii has been beefing up security measures, as you know, amid rising nuclear threats with North Korea. The state tested its warning sirens last year for the first time since the Cold War. Emergency alert of an imminent missile threat from North Korea turned out to be a false alarm, creating momentary panic among residents. Interest in the U.S. state of Hawaii. Text messages were mistakenly sent to mobile phones at around 8 a.m. on Saturday local time. The message said emergency alert, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. Some people began to take refuge. 38 minutes later a second message was sent confirming there was no missile threat or danger and that the first message was a false alarm. Reuters reports President Donald Trump was playing golf in Florida at the time he was reportedly briefed on the alert. Hawaiian authorities told an educated it's unclear what caused the error and they are investigating. Former communications director at the U.S. mission to the UN, a friend of ours here at Fox News. Hi Jonathan, thanks for being with us today. Alright, so I just want to get your first initial reaction to when you saw just what we all saw on our phones here on the mainland. You know that there was a false alarm in Hawaii and you could imagine right away what people were going through. What were your initial thoughts, Jonathan? You know, it's sad to say, but it was sort of a thought of it's a matter of time until you would have something like this happen. I mean, obviously a false alarm like this is completely unacceptable. We have to get to the bottom of what transpired here and make sure that our systems are tight and capable of pulling off what they're supposed to do for the public. There's obviously a major problem here, but what it is a stark reminder, as the Congresswoman was saying, that we have a couple of crises happening right now that are utterly dangerous. We have a North Korea that is perfecting getting nuclear weapons onto intercontinental ballistic missiles that are capable of causing mass casualties, and Hawaii, just like Japan and the Japanese by the way for months now, have been dealing with air raids. They themselves have been dealing with the fear of having a North Korean missile fall out of the sky and hit them or hit one of their shipping vessels out at sea where some of these missiles have come down. These are real problems that need to be addressed absolutely now. Somebody who, as we all know here at Fox, has been following world affairs for as long as you have and the time you've spent over at the United Nations, you know what do you foresee happening in the coming weeks, in the coming days as reaction to this? Because it's obviously, as the congressman said, and you said, that the reality of this threat is real, and she said there's no more time to waste. What could we see happening in these next few days and weeks? Hopefully this will cause some more stirrings and an impetus to get things done more rapidly, to try to move things along, to try to get a negotiated settlement with the North Koreans if that's at all possible. I mean, obviously Kim Jong-un is not the most easy person to deal with. He is at the center of the current crisis. He's the man who's threatening our citizens at the moment, and why people are living in fear in Hawaii and other parts of the world because of his erratic behavior and his set development of these nuclear weapons to ensure his survival and the survival of his dastardly regime. So we need to move on these things very rapidly. Hopefully we'll get more traction at the United Nations, but ultimately it comes down to us and our policy and how we're going to handle the North Koreans, because it really is a problem between our two nations, and trying to resolve this. There are positive sides that we've seen with the South Koreans and talking about the Olympics, but that's small potatoes compared to what we're dealing here with in terms of a nuclear threat to our citizens. This is Timopaciola Wood Think Take and I'm here with Bella and Andrea, and you're both from Reno, Nevada, and so I've got to ask the question. About an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, an incoming message from the state of Hawaii Emergency Management said that there was incoming ballistic missiles. This is not a drill. Did you get that message, and how did you feel, and what were your thoughts? We were surprised at first, and then the kids started going into a panic, texting everybody, and then we had step-parents calling us wanting to know what was going on, freaking out about where we were at and what we were doing and how we were doing it. So it was very scary for us. Bella, what was going through your mind when this first came through? Well, I hopped out of bed right away and I started packing all my stuff because I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. Would it feel like when you were freaking out? I feel like explode. Andra, before I set up the camera here, you said you're upset. You weren't happy? Tell me a little bit about that. I just feel like it's unacceptable to throw the state in such a frenzy the way that it did, and for us as visitors when our last leg of our trip here, unacceptable for someone to have pushed a button and for that button to be accessible by one person as it was stipulated on the news today. I feel that it was completely unacceptable. There should have been a dual control, or 3 people that have to push the same button to access and alert that magnitude. Now this went off approximately very early, around 8 o'clock. The correction message is that Extra Venture came on TV wasn't for another 25 minutes or so, right? We at that point we're already in the valley part of the hotel that we were staying at, with everybody freaking out and crying and screaming and yelling. And did you see people in the lobby? Yeah, there's tons of people. And what were they doing, and what were their reactions? They were trying to get the answer, so they were asking the bellhops, they were asking people of the hotel, is this happening, is this real? And what we were told from the hotel was that yes, it was real and has never happened before, and to listen, we're being yelled at to listen to commands and to listen to what they were telling us to do it just to get to safety in the valet portion of the hotel at the bottom. So this was well in advance, or before there was announcement that this was a fake drill. They'll ask you question. This is the first time this has ever happened for a lot of people here in Hawaii, and this is your first time experience. Do you have any thoughts about that? Were you glad you're here with your mom? Yeah, that's good. So if you had a message to the governor of the state, because eventually all this does fall under his authority, you have a message for the governor of state of Hawaii, I would just say, I know that they're doing what they need to do to find out what happened, and I'm assuming that they probably already know what happened, and I can't imagine it would take hours for them to find the answers to that. I would just I'm sure they understand that it did create a panic, but it sounds like it was an unnecessary one. So to the state I would say, be mindful of what happens, and also know that we're also mindful what's happening in our world and our surroundings, to know that this potentially, if it was an accident, it potentially could have not have been an accident, it could have been something, a real threat to us, and I think that we all take it very seriously. Were there any thoughts in your mind about this going even further on a national level? Maybe someone in the national federal government took this as something serious and possibly you could react to it. That's exactly what we thought. I mean, with all the news lately, we thought, shoot, what, here we go, all that missile testing and all those things that we hear from North Korea and things like that, but now it's happening. The first thing that ran through my mind is I thought this has to be real, because we've been in talks and there's been a lot of things on the news that scares us as the public. So as a parent we do what we can do, and I felt with Prez apparently felt very hopeless, very helpless to our children to be able to do anything. We kept looking at the seas and watching the seas in front of us being patrolled by what's it called, the Coast Guard. So we saw several of those out there. So it even caused more panic, because we thought, oh yeah, this has to be real because the Coast Guard is out there. So anyways, it was very frantic for us and very unacceptable. If it was someone that had pushed a button on accident, unacceptable. You had mentioned dual control. I think that's a very, very good point, and it doesn't seem like maybe there was dual control before this message hit the emergency management system. Well, they said on the news this morning that there was one person that hit a button, and error, you buy that? Absolutely you don't think that's true? I don't believe it, not for 1 minute. And if it's true, that's pathetic. If it's true and only one person could push a button, it seems like they're gonna have to take 10 steps back and reorganize a lot of things. Absolutely. They mentioned it being one person that set off the alarms to all of the cell phones, but we watched it on the news. We watched the warnings on the news that said to get to higher ground, to seek shelter on the news itself. And so it wasn't just cell phones that was affected. I mean, we watched it. I have video of it on my phone that where it was on the TV. He's telling us to seek shelter, and so I was a big button for someone to push. What was the reaction of people in the lobby area? What were they doing? What were they saying? Were they upset? Were they agitated? I think it was a little mix of everything. There was people crying, there was people scared, there were people asking questions, people that weren't hearing the answers to those questions, so other people were yelling the answers back to other people. The elevators were full, so we had people going down the stairs into the lobby itself. We were on the 14th floor and we couldn't get an elevator to come up to us, so just a lot of get out of the way. Horrible. It was horrible. And as a visitor, will we come back? Of course we will, because we come back for the island. But if we were to come back and had to have anything to do with the government or how things are run, I mean, I can tell you we would probably think twice before coming back to a state like that allows one person access to a button that can cause panic at the scale Andrea Bella, I want to thank you very much for spending your time. We're sorry that this day was kind of ruined for you, but hopefully it'll get better, and we appreciate all the tourists that come to our island and enjoy our loggia and our beautiful paradise, so thank you for coming and sharing your thoughts. I'm Tim Mappaseller with Think Tech Hawaii. Aloha.